I'm Corbett Wall with DB Auction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, July the 17th, brought to you by the nationalbeefwire.com. I know you guys that enjoy watching this report sometimes have a hard time finding it, locating it, not sure where the best place to get it is. If you go on to nationalbeefwire.com, and you can do that on your smartphones too, you get on there and log in and sign up for the newsletter. Doesn't cost anything. And this report, along with a lot of other viable market information and quotes, will be there waiting on you in your inbox every morning, and it's the easiest way to find that. nationalbeefwire.com. The heat is on. We've got some of those temperatures coming in now that we haven't seen so far yet this summer. I talked about it on the last session. It's going to take a toll. It's coming up right through your cattle country, the plains and the Midwest, and it's going to take a toll. It's going to really put a beating on these feedlots, especially on their heaviest market-ready cattle that haven't really experienced this kind of heat. It's taking its toll on your calf market, although there's still not a lot of calves moving, new crop calves, but those that are coming, not finding a lot of friends as we enter the middle part of this week with this big-time heat coming on. But that's sure something to watch. Let's look at the board for Tuesday. August live cattle futures down 27 cents at 108.22. October's down 52 cents at 109.25. August feeder cattle down 60 cents, 141.05, and September down 72 at 141.87. So you think, well, is this little run up over because the board's down a little bit? No, I think it has something to do with this heat that's coming on too. But still good demand at every level for cattle and beef. And I don't think it's anything to worry about. The only thing that might hurt a little bit is your market position, because as that spot fat cattle or live cattle contract goes down, it's so enticing for these hedged feeders to jump at that. And we've talked about the basis jumpers before. So far this week, they've kind of held off. But if it gets as hot as it's supposed to get here middle part of the week, they're going to be hard-pressed to stay hooked and try for another buck or two this week, which they probably could easily get if they would just stick together. But I've said it 1,000 times that it's a whole lot harder to put 400 heads together than it is 4, and it's hard for those guys to stick together. But yeah, we didn't have any confirmed fat cattle sales on Tuesday. Nothing confirmed. We've had a few trickle sales there that come in on Monday, but on your mandatory price reporting reports, nothing that came in on Tuesday. Did hear some pretty good rumors, and some that I trust and have used, and haven't been bit yet using those, but I heard a string of cattle in Iowa sell at 180 in Iowa FOB. That's picked up, so you could add another couple bucks to that, and that's right in there really close with steady with the highest part of last week. I heard a long string of live cattle sell in Iowa at 114.50. That was just within pennies of the extreme top last week, and on a long string that would be a fine market too. We'll see if that continues. A lot of that was kind of regional type stuff and may have happened after they could have reported it on mandatory price reporting. But I think we're in for a good steady market if the heat gets to these guys and they have to sell cattle. But if it's not as bad as what the forecasts say, and the guys stay hooked and hold out till Friday, could probably get another buck or two if the board doesn't beat us up any worse than it has already. But the reports that come out middle part of this week is the USDA comprehensive box beef report come out and says that it confirms banner demand for beef. It continues to be that way. We've had impressive movement of late here, both current delivery and for out front delivery of dressed beef. And your box beef market has held up pretty well, even though it has faded, which it always does as we get into the dog days of summer. This should promote continued aggressive slaughter by the packing plants. They're still making pretty good money. I know they're singing the blues because the cutout values are off a little bit, but any measure you take, they're still over $200 a head. And if you take into account all those little extra premium things that they get, it could be a whole lot more than that. Of course, you're never going to find out exactly. But the currentness of our market-ready cattle, especially in the northern plains, continues to give our cattle feeders leverage on this trade. And if they will continue to use this, we've got to get some market position back in this fat cattle arena somehow, and now is the time to do it. But now with this heavy heat coming in, it's really hard to stay hooked when you've got your show list out there shrinking out here in the 98 or 100 degree heat with high humidity. But let's talk about your feeder cattle markets. Your real-time index on Cattle Market Central late in the day on Tuesday at 141.18, down 53 cents, but we had a lot more of those southern plains, lower Midwest type markets that were pumping cattle into that index. Didn't really have too much to offset it in the northern plains, but we're having a lot of sales of cattle early this week. I'm not sure how much it's going to kind of wane off a little bit as we get into the really hot temperatures that are coming. But you look at that 141.18, do you think that RTI tracks pretty close to your CME cash feeder cattle index that came out for Monday at 141.16? That's amazing how close that is. And using different markets, the same parameters, the same weights, everything the same, except we're in markets they're not in, they're in markets we're not in. I want to talk about markets that they're not in, that we're in with RTI, with National Beef Wire, with Cattle Market Central, all through DV Auction. But I want to talk about these markets and give them a little bit more promotion, because these are quotes that you won't see anywhere else, guys, unless those markets run an ad in their local paper or something like that. But Fredonia, Kansas had a hell of a sale on Tuesday. I talk about Fredonia quite a bit, and the main reason I talk about them is before we started pulling their market automated, I didn't know anything about Fredonia, didn't know the kind of cattle that they sold, didn't know that they sold load after load after load at times in their sale there. But Brad Hahn and the guys doing a great job at Fredonia, Kansas. Had over 2,200 head of feeder cattle on Tuesday. The steers sure looked $1 to $5 higher than the light test that they've had of late. But you look at this market report on feeder cattle out of Fredonia, shows both steers and heifers, but I want you to look at the best tested quote on there was on your heavy 7-weight steers. 624 head of 7-weight steers with an average weight of 770. So they were way heavy on the top side of that 7 weight. They averaged 144.23 on all of them, guys. And look at this individual quote out of Fredonia. 62 head of 814-pound steers bring 148.75 through the ring. That's a great sale for anybody, anytime, but especially right here in the center part of July. Let's look at another market that you never hear anything about except for on right here on the feeder flash. Beaver County Stockyards. We just started getting their market here a couple of weeks ago. Another great sale for Beaver County Stockyards. You're thinking, where's that at? Beaver, Oklahoma, in the Oklahoma Panhandle. 2,500 head plus feeder cattle at the Beaver County Stockyards. Look at this market report on the feeder cattle there. Look at your 8 and 9 weights. 438 head of steers in the 8-weight category, averaged 864, so on the heavy side at 141.07. Look at these 9 weights. 464 head of 9-weight steers in Beaver, Oklahoma. They averaged 929 at 139.16, and an individual quote for them, 53 head of 942-pound steers bring 141.50. I'm not sure where you'll find that anywhere else, guys. Okay, now let's look at another market that we talk about all the time. Ozarks Regional Stockyard, West Plains, Missouri. They had another good sale there, and it's hot. I tell you what, this time of year, it's hot in West Plains, Missouri, guys. But feeder steers and heifers, lighter test of heifers, steady to firm there, but they had a whale of a sale last week. Calves steady to $4 lower, and it has everything to do with this heat. But look at the individual quote out of there. Going to be the biggest string by far on Tuesday all over the country. 442 head of steers right there in Ozarks Regional Stockyards in West Plains. Talked to Dan Hill, the market reporter there. Said they were about 2/3 black. Nothing fancy, but awful good feeder cattle there. 2/3 black, but commodity type cattle. 442 head of them, weighed 930 pounds at 136.10 in south central Missouri. Those are awful good quotes, but we still have to go up into the northern plains to get the monster quote for the day. Huron Continental Marketing in Huron, South Dakota, 64 head of 797 pound steers, bring $158. And that's your feeder flash for Wednesday.